Welcome to today's Comex.io case study together with Andreas from Yaveon, ERP solutions provider using the Microsoft Dynamics suite, based here out of Würzburg in Germany, correct?
Right, that's correct.
Perfect. And let's just kick it off, Chris. Actually, I start today, right?
You start today, yeah.
Perfect, cool. You've been Comex customer now for how long? Like, when did you guys start?
About a half a year.
Perfect. So like within the 6-month range. And what we like to talk about normally is what transformation took place. So let's start from the beginning. So how did you guys do lead generation and sales before engaging with Comex?
Yeah, right. So we have a classical marketing mix. So meaning we go for, of course, online marketing with the website. We go for events like fairs, or invite also customers to Yaveon specific events. We have an outbound telemarketing team. So that's one of the key resources of generating leads. We have actually a very sharp target audience. So meaning that the inside sales team is calling these target customers very frequently, since the, let's say, typical customer usually buys such a system once in 10 years.
Right.
Meaning it's more about very long-term relationships rather than we can generate with one call a new lead or so.
Right. We hear this a lot with specifically systems providers with those very, very long sales cycles. That is about engagement a lot and then being there at the right time. So how do you deal with this normally?
Well, usually we ask the customers when they have bought or implemented the last time such a system, an ERP solution. And this gives us an indication. So for example, if a company has implemented an ERP system last year, it's very likely that they will not go for a new system within the next 6, 8, maybe even 10 years. If the system is already many years in place, let's say 7, 8, 9 years, we call them in a higher frequency to make sure that we don't miss the moment in time when they search for a new solution. Because if we miss this moment in time, then we don't get a chance. And if we miss this chance, we have to wait another 10 years again. So that's, let's say, really a pity if we don't know about the project. Of course, it's a different story whether you win or not, right? But the biggest issue from my marketing perspective is, of course, not to know about it.
Right, got it. So when we're looking at before you engaged with Comex, what were you guys mostly busy with? So what were the activities of the team to meet those demands for being there at the right time?
Well, since it's not very clear which part of the marketing finally leads to a lead, we were busy in all areas. It's not that we have significant effort in one or the other area in specific, right? So inside sales is one of the key lead resources or sources for us. So that's a permanent activity of my colleagues here. And then, of course, usually the rest of the marketing team often follow the events, which require a lot of preparation work. And for example, at this moment, we're relaunching our website. So that's one of the projects which catch our attention at the moment.
Right. And if you had to put your finger on it, and you have certain goals, with this very, very, resource heavy sales buildup, what do you think were the things that held you back to reach your goals in that sense? Or what is the key part that has looked for improvement?
Well, let's say the golden old marketing rule, you don't know where you spend 50%, or let's say 50% of marketing is waste, and you don't know which 50% exactly usually, right? So, and this is, let's say, why I liked the idea from Comex, where we have a system which runs automatically, and the people or the, let's say, leads show up or give response when they really like to show off and get a feedback to us. Yeah. So let's say in the end of the day, to have an engine that runs to a certain extent automatically, and then to where we can start the conversation more precisely at the moment in time when the prospect really shows interest. Yeah?
Right, got it. And I mean, we ask this question a lot, and that is really, we're always amazed how little people know what happens at their funnel before their first engagement. And that's why we're always asking, like, how important would you say is to control over this early funnel? Like, because you've been in this business for a while, so like.
Right. Well, of course, it's very important to know how large the funnel is in general. And then, of course, it's all about to have the prospects or the suspects and prospects and later on customers on all levels in a permanent flow, or the right number of suspects or prospects in each stage anytime. So of course, yes, we have cycles, but it's also obvious that if we don't fill the funnel permanently and frequently enough, then we will run into a gap sooner or later.
Yeah, got it.
So once we got aware about a prospect, then the average actual sales cycle is 3 to 6 months. So when I don't get new fresh leads or contacts into the funnel, of course, I will end up after a couple of months in a larger gap, right? And so it's the key importance is to stay on the market, be visible on the market all the time.
Yeah, got it. So if you think about the first engagement also with comics, when we started talking, like what sparked your interest? Like with what intention did you come into our assessment session, for example?
Well, actually, I think, well, we met through Facebook. So I saw on Facebook ad, and I can't remember exactly the wording, but basically it said something about lead generation. And of course, since lead generation is one of my key topics, this is why, where it catched my attention and where I started to look at it, and that, okay, let's dig into it and see what happens. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. And then once you came closer to actually starting with us, what was the tipping point where you actually decided, yes, we're going for this now in the decision process?
Two things. One was that we do not have had a solution in place like yours before. And the second thing is that we have had a reference call with one of your customers who described the interaction with your team. And next to the fact that, of course, the result is always an open result when you start something completely new. It was mainly about the interaction with you guys, and that he said it helped not just from a technical perspective, but also from a general marketing perspective.
I think we can actually move over to Chris, because that goes now into onboarding and customer success, right? So,
So just the next part, when you started with comics, could you just describe us how would you describe the collaboration, especially in the onboarding also?
Yeah, what I really like was that the process was very clear. So you have had, I don't know, 4 or 5 steps, which were outlined in this workflow tool, and it was clear that we have to run through the steps, step by step, as it says. So it was very transparent when we have to deliver certain information, like the target group or the text we are using for the mailings. And we always got reminders and support to keep the process alive and keep it going.
Yeah. Do you have an approximate idea, like how many resources you needed to set to start this send out, like from the onboarding to the send out? Do you have an approximate idea, like how much time or resources there was?
Well, I think time-wise, it was maybe it was a few weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. Resource-wise, it was not really a lot, because it was mainly myself. I know our target audience, and we got these lists with the target or the industry segments where we just pick the ones we are addressing. And then creating the text was also very easy, because you have had templates already. So let's say my actual effort, it was myself plus feedback from my marketing colleagues who are also engaged in texting. That was in total a few days, maybe even less than a day if you really count the hours.
Yeah, perfect. Like, in what area would you think did you provide, or did we provide the most added value? You also talked before about that we added value in the marketing strategy or marketing area. What is your perception? What area did we provide value, especially in the onboarding also?
It's actually the mix out of a technology of a tool set that does the job, meaning finding the right target audience and then doing all the mailing stuff. And the second thing is indeed that with the A/B testing, you have had the templates at hand where we did really just slightly adjustments, and I think templates work pretty well. So with the A/B test, it was also clear that one text approach did work very, very much better than the other one. Yeah. So yeah, this was basically the combination of technology, but also the input or the content ready to use.
Yeah, perfect. Let's move a bit more into results. Like when we look in your, before you started with comics until after you started, and now you've been running with us for a couple of months or half a year.
Yeah.
How would you describe the results? Like what has changed for you guys also?
Well, multiple things. So number one is that we see that we get replies from companies we already know, which is clear because, as mentioned, our target segment is very, very sharp. Germany, Switzerland, and specific industries, chemical, pharma, etc. So we know the target audience very, very good and for long. Yeah. And seeing replies from companies we already know was good, seeing to me that your algorithm is working since you found exactly the companies we are approaching. So this was a proof to me that you find and target the right type of customers.
Perfect.
That's number one. Number two is that's more a quality thing. This is not that it's changing my sales life in total, but it's about quality and that the system is set up and working correctly. Number two is that we're approaching people we might not have been approached before. Meaning, for example, we have had one company where our sales rep was already talking to this company, but then we got a comics reply from another person, the CFO in this case of the company, whom we have not met before. Mm-hmm. So that means it broadened our contact base within this company, and that's just one example. We also have some others where we created new contacts, which is always beneficial because people change, and it's important to be on the one hand side up to date with the contacts, but also to be visible in those companies on different levels. And yeah, number three, and that's of course in the end of the day the key target and best case, if we can generate actual leads, which we did on the one hand side from companies we did not know before, meaning we haven't had approached them before, though a complete new contact, and also from companies where we have had in our database but did not call them right now, right? So even if this is kind of a coincidence, because timing is, as that, also partly luck here in the game because of this 10-year cycle, it brought them up, and that's in the end of the day the ultimate goal, always to be aware and get known about a project if something is in the customer's pipe.
Right.
Yeah. That makes that total sense. Yeah. Are there other areas that you said comics had an impact on, also not only on numbers, but like is there anything on terms of teams, the way you work, also personal?
Yeah, well, my inside sales team consists out of 4 ladies who are doing a very, very good job here. At the same time, I have one from those ladies who is going to read all the replies coming back from the email or from the comics account. And for her, it was really a different way of working, and she really enjoys having more the reactive way of responding to those customers, rather than being always hardcore outbound cold calling all day long, right? Yeah. She's still doing that, and so it's for her it's a let's say nicer mix to have the mix out of cold and warm leads here. Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the direct impacts to the team. And secondly, which is part of a general change in how to go to market, and where we have the aim to create more inbound leads, is that we can scale the solution, right? So yeah, we have started with our core countries, Germany and Switzerland, where we deliver the projects ourselves, but we also have a reseller network in Europe and the US. And so the next step would be to roll out your solution to some other European countries together with the local partners. Well, let's see how it will work in other regions, but I'm very positive that we have here now a tool where we can create potentially leads without engaging directly another inside salesperson or so, which is not so easy to find skills advice, but also who has the language skills, etc., etc.
Yeah. What, according to your opinion, what would you have, or what would have been necessary to achieve similar results like with the other methods that you have? Like if you look today at the comics leads, what would you have needed to invest to get to the similar or same results, like number of leads or contacts, or what you have today?
Well, I think one very good or one very helpful element was the A/B test to find out what really works. Secondly, then of course to have some iterations, and I think this is something not just for the beginning, but from time to time, let's say after half a year or a year, really to review and maybe start A/B testing again to double check if the way or the tonality how you approach your target audience is still up to date. And number three, for the European rollout, what I want to achieve is to bring in the local partners to make use of local language, because especially for example in France or Italy, I think local language will have an even higher importance than, for example, in Germany or Netherlands.
Yeah. Okay. Definitely, yeah, we can agree on that one. If you look at the comics leads today, like, is there any added value, or like, what's the impact of the leads today? How far are they in the sales pipeline, and how close are they into sales, and what's the results on that side?
Well, the one we got recently has a very tough timeline. So he showed up, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago and want to be live with our solution in November. Oh. So this was very ambitious. So even if he will be able to make a very fast decision, we have to see how we can handle that. Nevertheless, I think for the rest of the leads, when they show up, it's basically the same with comics leads compared to the other leads. When they show up, they start a regular sales cycle, and there are of course lucky punches like the one I have described, who really make a decision in a few days or maybe in 2-3 weeks. The typical average is 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, 3 to 6 months. Okay. Yeah. Like in terms of recommendation, like how likely would you recommend someone to work with comics? Like what would you recommend, and how likely would you recommend someone?
In general, I would give a recommendation, and I already work on spreading comics through my reseller network, right? Because if they are successful, I also get my part of it, and my or our company's success is also arriving then. Number two is, I think, well, we know that we have to do more in online marketing. So this was one element without a big plan beyond it. I think that's one of the questions companies should ask themselves. Are they ready for online marketing in general? What's their total strategy, and how does comics fit into it? And even if we, let's say, just have a larger vision of that, it was a very good trial, because it gave something concrete, or it showed how it could work in real life. And as always, when you have also to sell internally new ways of everything, but in my case, going to market or generating leads, it's always helpful to show it on an example rather than stay in theory, right? Yeah. So, well, when we talk about how to move on, basically both approaches are fine. The very planned one, and to fill a gap within larger strategy, but also, like we did, just got started and find out if it works or not.
Yeah.
That's one thing that we get a lot of course, right? If we explain the solution, and we would be interested in your opinion there, because of course there's some sort of investment decision that takes place, right? And you look at an alternative to create similar results, maybe. What would you say in terms of like the investment decision for comics? What is the ideal situation when you actually should say, okay, that's definitely the best way to go forward?
Well, I think when you're in the situation that you can invest always in the same elements you already have, right? But if you're, let's say, if you have a professional marketing, I mean, my marketing team consists out of 4 people in marketing and 4 in inside sales. Right. So we are already, let's say, well settled and well equipped with a lot of marketing professionals, right? So we are on a certain point where it does not help if I hire another inside salesperson or another marketing manager to do whatever, right? So we have to go different ways, different approaches compared to what we did so far. And yeah, let's say, for example, a classic thing is events. People are invited to 1 million events. You can go any week to interesting events, speeches, fairs, whatever, right? So this instrument is also a very good example that it does not help if we show up on more events or if we create more events. We really have to find different ways of access. And yeah, so this is why, or where I would recommend to think about an investment in comics when comics can fill a gap or can open a new way of market approach where you are not active currently.
Right, cool.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Great.
So, I mean, I don't have any more questions here.
No, thanks so much, Andy. It was great insights. Also, thanks so much for the insights you gave us in the collaboration with us. Anything you want to mention that we haven't asked?
Well, I'm open for reference calls. If anyone from the marketing field is interested in having a one-to-one call, I'm glad to go for it. Not just to give you some nice credits, but also because I'm interested in what other marketeers are doing in the market. So I'm also interested and open for learning new stuff. That's basically it.
Cool, awesome. Andy,
Perfect.
thank you so much for the session. Awesome. And we see you in the next review session.
Yeah.
Definitely. Thanks, guys. Have a good day. Bye-bye.